Hello everyone, welcome to Azka Online Tutors. Today we're going to talk about how substances move in and out of the cell. Think about a cell as a tiny living unit that is always busy. It needs some substances to come in and it needs to get rid of some substances that it doesn't require anymore. For example, the cell needs oxygen to release energy and they also need nutrients such as glucose. At the same time, the cell produces waste products such as carbon dioxide which needs to leave the cell. Now the question is that how these substances get in and out. The answer is simple. It's the cell membrane. For example, this is the animal cell. It has the most outer layer covering called the cell membrane. So the cell membrane acts like a gate and it controls what can enter the cell and what can leave it. In today's lesson, we are mainly going to look at the important way substances move across the membrane that is called diffusion. Now you all must be wondering what diffusion is. Let me start with a very simple example. Imagine that someone opens a bottle of perfume in the corner of a room. At first, you can smell it only near the bottle, but after a few minutes, the smell spreads around the room. Why does this happen? Because the perfume particles move from an area of lots of perfume particles to the area where there are fewer perfume particles. That is called diffusion. So the diffusion is the net movement of particles from the area of high concentration to the area of lower concentration. Don't worry if that sounds complicated, just remember that diffusion means moving from high concentration towards the lower concentration. Think of a crowded classroom. If all the students are standing in one corner, they will naturally spread out into the empty space in the room. So the particles behave in a similar way. They move randomly and overall. There is a movement from where there are more particles to where there are fewer particles. Now let's bring the same idea back to the cells. Imagine that there is more oxygen outside a cell than inside it. Oxygen can move through a cell membrane from the area where there is more oxygen to the area where there is less oxygen. So the oxygen moves into the cell and the cell can use that oxygen for respiration to release energy. Now let's look at the carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide is produced inside the cell during respiration. So if there is more carbon dioxide in the cell, then outside carbon dioxide can move from inside the cell to the outside of the cell. So the carbon dioxide moves out of the cell. Notice the cell doesn't have to push these particles using energy. They move naturally from high concentration area towards the lower concentration area. This is why diffusion is called a form of passive transport and it does not require the cell to provide energy for the movement. Diffusion is also very important in plants. Think about a leaf. Now plant needs carbon dioxide to make food through the process of photosynthesis, right? But how does carbon dioxide get into the leaf? So the leaves have tiny openings called the stomata. Carbon dioxide from the air can move into the leaf through those openings and it can move through the spaces inside the leaf and reaches the leaf where it can be used for photosynthesis. During photosynthesis, the plant produces oxygen where there is more oxygen inside the leaf than outside. So the oxygen can move out of the cell by diffusion. And the gases are constantly moving in and out of the plant cell. So a simple way to remember all this is the carbon dioxide moves into the leaves for photosynthesis and oxygen can move out. So plants also need oxygen for respiration just like animals do, and diffusion is very important because it helps the plant cells get the gases they need and remove gases they produce. Thank you so much for watching this video.